In this video, I'm going to show you how I built up my $500 glorious GMMK Pro Build. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on it, my typing test, and everything like that. So yeah, be sure to watch it. Alright, now let's unbox the GMMK Pro. This thing will run you about 170 US dollars. Either you get it in the black or white version, which the white version is pretty much a silver version from what I hear. And yeah, it's just a bare bones kit with some stabilizers. I had to shoot this unboxing like 4 times. I already put hours of mods worth into this board, but after looking back at the footage, it was way too shaky for me to go with it. So I literally took everything apart, put back in the default stabilizers, the default plate, all that, and yeah, here we are. Obviously I went with the black version. Sorry if it's a little bit hard to see on camera. Black isn't the easiest to shoot with. But yeah, the first thing I noticed out of the box is that this board is really heavy, at least coming from gamer keyboards. And yeah, this thing definitely is as stiff as people say. I tried to push it to get any flex out of it, but I didn't get any. And also, I feel like the anodized finish turned out really well on my board. Some people like to criticize it for the smallest, tiniest marks ever, which they really don't matter. This board looks good in person. Yeah, overall, I feel like the chassis is really unique. I like how the bottom housing is actually a little bit smaller than the top housing. Yeah, I've never seen anything like. No, I'm just kidding. I think it looks like a TFU board cloned in my opinion, which is a really smart move by Glorious because the TFU board brought a lot of new customers in the custom keyboard world. So if they make something similar to it, a lot of people are probably gonna buy it. So yeah, smart marketing here. Okay, now I disassembled the board for like the millionth time, and now let's get to modding it. This boy doesn't need some mods. So obviously this board is gasket mounted, so we have a top housing, and honestly the stickers on my top housing did not seem munched up or anything like that at all. A lot of people have this board says theirs came messed up out of the box. Mine came fine. There are extras in the box though. Now we have the hot swap PCB and the aluminum plate that comes with every GMMK Pro stock, and there also is foam that's supposed to go in between these two, but like I said, I already disassembled mine like 4 times. I already took it out. And oh yeah, there are a ton of different screws on this board. There's like 8 on the PCB, 8 on the chassis, and like 2 standoffs on the PCB as well. I think that's what really contributes to the stiffness of this board and really prolongs the disassembly and assembly process. And of course, the GOAT stabilizers. In my opinion, these are not worthy of the title GOAT, and they honestly weren't even that decent stock to begin with. They're filled with lube, but mine still somehow had rattle in them. I'm kind of confused by it. I would definitely recommend picking up some aftermarket like Durock, Zeal, C3 equals, stabilizers, something like that, and modding them to your best ability. The plate, you don't have to swap it to a polycarbonate or brass if you don't want to, but if you are going to aftermarket stabs, I highly recommend the polycarbonate because I know the other plates don't work as well, which honestly, that's a very disappointing thing to see from Glorious. It feels like they didn't even test to see if the stabilizers would work like before they put this in production. But they have confirmed that they are going to work on that in the future, so maybe if you're not getting the board now, you're getting it later, then yeah, you won't have to worry about that. But still, it would have been really nice to see that on people who got this board like day 1 or something like that. Talking about the stabilizers, this was my first mod. I swapped them for the Durock V2 stabilizers. Now in the sound test later, you're probably going to notice that they don't sound that good. It's because I ran out of krytox a few days before. Luckily I had some dielectric grease on the wires and I holee modded them, but still the housings had like few droplets of krytox on them. So yeah, in a few days when I get my shipment, I'm going to go back, crack the stabilizers, make them sound way better. But something important to note is that whenever you have Durock stabs and a polycarbonate plate in this PCB, it is going to flex like crazy. Take a look at this. This is pretty disappointing from Glorious and is a really scary sight to see. Now luckily, whenever you reassemble your keyboard, it'll sandwich it down and be straight again. But while you're modding it, this is not what you want to look at. Now like I mentioned before, this board is really stiff, so I left out a lot of screws to combat the stiffness. And this really helped me. I feel like there was more flex to it after I left out a few screws. Okay, now for the switches. The switches I went with are the Durock L2s. They're linears and some people call them the budget Telios. I haven't tried Telios, so I can't tell you. Well, they're pretty nice for linears. I lubed them with krytox 205 and 105 in the springs, and I filmed them with TX films. I was originally going to go with Gateron black inks, but I'm going to game with this keyboard, so I want something a little bit lighter. The keycap set I'm going with is the GMK Laser keycap set. Got them off drop, and yeah, I think they're really clean. I was originally going to go with the GMK Samurai, but I saw like everybody using that keycap set in this keyboard, so I decided to go with the Laser because I thought it'd be different. But then I also saw more people use it, so what can I do about it? But yeah, overall, I think it looks really clean, especially with the red spacebar set I got. And whenever I plug this thing in and get pink RGB on the sides, oh, it looks so clean. But yeah, before the typing test and my final thoughts, I'm gonna give you guys some B-roll. So what are my final thoughts about this board right here? So first of all, I would say it's a good board. I feel like the typing experience really turned out well once you mod it. But out of the box, you know, using everything stock, I wouldn't recommend it if you're gonna do that. Unless you're into that type of stuff, then yeah, go for it if that's your preference. But I feel like it's way too stiff and the stabilizers are not good enough stock. That would probably be my biggest complaint though, just the stabilizers and the board being too stiff. And the assembly and disassembly process really wasn't complicated. It just takes a while, again, because of all the screws. It's pretty easy to work with once you get it down, but yeah, the screws which really makes it take a long time. I mean, but yeah, once I got past all the mods and stuff, I mean, the typing experience, I really like it. This is my first ever like custom keyboard that I'm like keeping for myself. And this is the very first custom keyboard like that I'm building from a DIY kit, applying mods, all that. So yeah, that's my first like ever doing that. So of course I probably could have done better in some different spots, but I feel like I did well enough to get the full experience out of this board. Again, the stabilizers, I'm gonna go back and correct those later. And yeah, the metal finish on this thing is really premium. Like you can't get this on like, you know, your custom gamer Best Buy keyboards. Like this is definitely a custom keyboard only feature. Now of course your experience is going to vary based on what switches, plates, stabilizers, even keycaps you use. I feel like this could be a good reference for some of you. Also, if you really are not obsessed with custom coiled cables or whatever like that, don't buy one. I mean, in person, like on video and stuff, these look cool, but in person this thing looks kind of dinky. Like I don't even really care that much about it. Also, these are cherry profile keycaps, and I'm used to gamer keyboards with OEM or whatever. So these did feel pretty weird in game, but I got used to it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys are more used to it than I am, so yeah. And the pricing, so $170 is what you get for the bare bones. Once you factor in, you know, like $20 aftermarket stabs, you know, your $50 to $100 aftermarket keycaps, you know, your $50 switches, your lube, your films, all that, this board can be really expensive. As you can see, mine came out to be $500. But I went a really high route, like you don't have to go as big as I did, but yeah. And also, this keyboard is still on reservation, so this is not readily available. So you can expect, you know, maybe like a 2-month return window or 1-month return window for this board. So it's not readily available yet, but in the future, these will possibly be in stock at like your Micro Center. So this could be like the first ever, you know, like legit custom keyboard on shelves in stores, which I really like that from Glorious. And yeah, I do think this is going to attract a lot more people to the custom keyboard world, which I think is a great thing. More consumers equals more profit for companies, more profit for companies equals more production, and better production just means we're gonna get our stuff a whole lot faster. I wouldn't call this a beginner keyboard or a budget keyboard because again, the pricing can be like $250, $300 typical. So I wouldn't call that, you know, budget or beginner. Unless you're balling like that and you're a beginner, go for it. But yeah, I think this is a good board. If you really want this board in particular, you can go for it. Just know that the disassembly and reassembly process can be kind of frustrating if your stabilizers don't fit, if you want to put in all the screws, all that stuff. So yeah, this is what my main keyboard sounded like before. And this is what my main keyboard sounds like now.